On a frigid Christmas Eve in Minneapolis, 14-year-old Michael Brooks found himself unceremoniously thrown out of his home by his father, who was fueled by anger and alcohol. With only a worn duffel bag and a heart heavy with despair, Michael stepped into the unforgiving winter night, abandoned and alone. The streets were filled with families celebrating the holiday, but Michael wandered aimlessly, feeling invisible and unwanted. As the days turned into weeks, Michael learned to survive on the streets, scavenging for food and seeking warmth wherever he could find it. He encountered Quincy, an older teen who had been living on the streets longer. Quincy shared tips on navigating life in the city's shadows, offering Michael a sense of camaraderie in an otherwise isolating world. Despite the harshness of his new reality, Michael found solace in books, particularly biographies of influential figures like Thurgood Marshall and Malcolm X. These stories inspired him to dream of a better future, one where he could rise above his circumstances. After weeks of hardship, Michael was found unconscious at a subway station and taken to a hospital. There, he was connected with a compassionate youth services caseworker named Leanne, who helped him find a shelter called Mercy House for Youth. At the shelter, Michael began to rebuild his life, focusing on his education and discovering a passion for law. He immersed himself in his studies, determined to escape the cycle of poverty and neglect that had defined his early years. With the support of mentors like Darius, a youth worker who recognized Michael's potential, and Mrs. Jordan, a dedicated teacher who encouraged his writing, Michael excelled in school. He entered a citywide essay contest about justice, writing a piece titled, "Justice is for the Invisible Too." To his surprise, he won second place, which ignited a fire within him to pursue a career in law. As he approached graduation, Michael applied for scholarships and was accepted into the University of Minnesota Law Scholars Program, which offered full tuition and support. Balancing school and a part-time job at a diner, he worked tirelessly, driven by the desire to become a lawyer for kids like him, those who felt invisible and unheard. Years later, after graduating with honors, Michael opened his own law office on Hennepin Avenue. It was a modest space, but it was his, a sanctuary for vulnerable youth seeking justice. He became known for his relentless advocacy, helping countless children navigate the legal system. Each case was personal. He saw reflections of his younger self in the faces of the kids he defended. One day, his estranged parents unexpectedly returned, seeking forgiveness. They stood in his office, older and diminished, asking for a second chance. Michael felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a sense of closure. He chose to close that chapter of his life, realizing he had built a new family through the children he fought for. He had transformed his pain into purpose, ensuring that every child he encountered knew they were not alone. As he continued his work, Michael understood that family is not defined by blood but by those who stand by you. He had forged connections with mentors, colleagues, and the children he represented, creating a support system that filled the void left by his past. In doing so, he found his own place in the world, a place of strength, resilience, and hope. Michael's journey was a testament to the power of perseverance and the belief that one can rise above their circumstances. He had not only survived but thrived, becoming a beacon of hope for others. Each time he stood beside a child in court, advocating for their rights, he was reminded of his own journey, a journey that began on a cold winter night but led to a life filled with purpose and meaning. In the end, Michael Brooks was not just a lawyer, he was a champion for the invisible, a voice for the voiceless, and a reminder that change is possible, no matter how bleak the beginning may seem. Michael's life took a significant turn when he began volunteering at the shelter, mentoring younger kids who were facing similar struggles. He organized workshops on self-advocacy and legal rights, empowering them to speak up for themselves. The kids looked up to him, and he found joy in sharing his knowledge and experiences. One day, while working with a group of children, he met a girl named Janiyah, who had been suspended for defending herself against a bully. Her story resonated deeply with him, reminding him of his own struggles. Michael took her case pro bono, determined to ensure she received justice. He spent hours preparing her defense, teaching her how to articulate her experiences and stand up for herself in front of the school board. When the day of the hearing arrived, Michael stood beside Janiyah, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. As he presented her case, he could see the fear in her eyes transform into confidence. The board ultimately ruled in her favor, allowing her to return to school. The victory was not just for Janiyah. It was a personal triumph for Michael, reaffirming his purpose and commitment to fighting for those who felt powerless. As Michael's reputation grew, so did his desire to create lasting change. He began collaborating with local organizations to develop programs aimed at preventing youth homelessness and providing legal resources for at-risk children. He organized community events, bringing together families, educators, and legal professionals to discuss the challenges facing youth in the system. Michael also started a scholarship fund for students from low-income backgrounds, ensuring that financial barriers would not prevent them from pursuing higher education. He believed that education was the key to breaking the cycle of poverty, and he wanted to provide opportunities for others to succeed. Through his work, Michael became a sought-after speaker at conferences and schools, sharing his story and inspiring others to take action. He emphasized the importance of empathy and understanding in addressing systemic issues, encouraging everyone to play a role in creating a more just society. Years later, as Michael stood in front of a crowd at a youth empowerment conference, he reflected on his journey. He spoke passionately about the importance of resilience and the power of community. After his speech, a young boy approached him, eyes wide with admiration. "I want to be like you when I grow up," he said. Michael smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "You can be even better," he replied. "Just remember to lift others as you rise." In that moment, Michael realized that his journey had come full circle. He had not only transformed his own life but had also become a catalyst for change in the lives of countless others. He had turned his pain into purpose, and in doing so, he had built a legacy of hope, resilience, and empowerment for future generations. As he left the conference, Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that the fight for justice was far from over, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each child he helped, he was reminded that change is possible and that together, they could create a brighter future for all. On a frigid Christmas Eve in Minneapolis, 14-year-old Michael Brooks found himself unceremoniously thrown out of his home by his father, who was fueled by anger and alcohol. With only a worn duffel bag and a heart heavy with despair, Michael stepped into the unforgiving winter night, abandoned and alone. The streets were filled with families celebrating the holiday, but Michael wandered aimlessly, feeling invisible and unwanted. As the days turned into weeks, Michael learned to survive on the streets, scavenging for food and seeking warmth wherever he could find it.